Hello and welcome to the When We Were Young 2025 lineup tier list ranking. I'm going to give a brief, I'm going to talk about briefly why this took like 3 days to make. Originally, when I started doing this, I was going to be doing it on my PC, and the software that I normally use on there decided to like lock things behind a paywall, so I was like, all right, fine, I'll bite the bullet, pay $20 for permanent pro features. And the video glitched, so I was like, okay, at this point, I'm just going to do this on my iPad. I'll go back to that some other time and see if it was maybe like the frames were the issues, because I put it as at the highest frame rate. I'm guessing that's probably it, but regardless, I still feel like my PC should have been able to handle that. Anyways, we're going to be doing this on the iPad. I'm hoping that I'm pretty sure the video's not going to end if I go to Spotify, because I will have to go to Spotify for fact checking. Anyways, let's get started. This is going to be a very controversial video, by the way. With Panic at the Disco, and I don't like Panic at the Disco. Their album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, I could never vibe with that album. There's like 3 songs that I like, but there's just something about, I don't know if it's the production, or just, I'm guessing it's the production, or maybe just the mixing. I think maybe it's more the mixing than the production, but the mixing on that album is not very good. I literally made I made a meme song, like basically hating on Panic at the Disco. It's called A Cold You Can Die From by a Dangerous Person. It's very like, it's just kind of my opinions in the song, and my opinions are like reflecting now. The whole, I'm just gonna call it folklore indie rock aesthetic is not something that it's not something like I don't hate it or anything, because I do like bands like the Hush Sound, and I was gonna say that, oh well, the whole theatrical stuff kind of ruined the scene, but no, because then there's a band like Sarah and the Safe Word that comes out years later, which like kind of just blew my mind on how good. I don't want to call it, I mean, I guess some people call it theater kid music, but theatercore can be good to an extent. It all depends on how it's done. And Panic at the Disco, they showed that, anybody can do this, and then people started thinking that they can do it, and some people can, and other people can't. And Brendan Urie's voice is just a discount Patrick Stump. So that's all I really have to say about Panic at the Disco. I listened to their first 4 albums. My favorite of theirs is Death of a Bachelor. I just feel like it's weird, because normally I would be more a fan of the rock stuff, but no, I started leaning more towards their pop stuff. It's odd, but I preferred it over the Pretty Odd album. So yeah, anyways, next is Simple Plan. I'm a Canadian, and Simple Plan is one of the most like nothing pop punk bands, next to like a couple others on this list. They're outside of their songs that are like primarily based around being a kid and Welcome to My Life, stuff you would hear on a Disney soundtrack. There's not a lot of bands that really have made music that's similar to that. Like Sum 41 did a better job at that, like, In Too Deep, for example. But even a song like I'm Just a Kid sounds like a parody that Bowling for Soup would have came up with. And really, outside of a couple songs, my favorite song by them is Perfect, but Perfect could have been made by pretty much any band. It's very hard to give them credit for anything. Next is Taking Back Sunday. Now, I love Taking Back Sunday. Tell All Your Friends is a great album. Really, I would say like their albums that are highly regarded, except Louder Now. I'm not a fan of Louder Now. And my favorite album by them is actually their self-titled. I don't like anything after their self-titled, mind you. But yeah, really, like their first run of albums are really good. I would not want to see them live though, because they suck. And after their self-titled, they just went straight downhill. So I'm not interested. Not interested is going to be not interested seeing live, because you're going to see that bands that I actually do care about, I'm going to put in that list for reasons, because whether or not it's a genre that I don't want to see live or other reasons. Jack's Mannequin. So I heard Something Corporate, and Something Corporate is a band that I really couldn't get into. Like, I couldn't listen to any of their albums. They had some good songs. My favorite song from them is From Ashes. And honestly, when I heard Jack's Mannequin, it was just like a better Something Corporate. And it's done by the same guy. I forget his name. But I heard I heard one song off their first album, and then I heard more of their songs because of One Tree Hill, and they also performed on One Tree Hill. And their first album is really good. Their second album, while as long as it is, really no other band could have pulled off that long album that they managed to make for their second album. It's just solid pop rock, a little bit of, like, it's not pop punk, it's just pop rock that a lot of bands try to imitate, but they just can't nail it as well as the guy behind Jack's Mannequin. Definitely because of nostalgia, I would put Want to See. They're not a must-see in my eyes. The story so far, this one's going to be a controversial take because I'm not a really huge fan of this band. I like their songs, but I'm not a fan, and I haven't heard their last album. A lot of, with these rankings, a lot of these bands were on other When We Were Young tier lineups, so I didn't listen to them again and listen to their new stuff before ranking this, so I'm still ranking them based on everything else that I've heard, which is, again, keep in mind their discography. And there's not really any bands that I missed out on their on a new album or anything, because I made sure of that before I did this. But yeah, the story so far, what's this song? Clairvent? And Navy Blue. Clairvent and Navy Blue, great songs. Not really a fan of anything else from them, though. But they're definitely higher than... actually, no. Oh, wait, I just realized that... Okay, yeah, no, sorry. I forgot that we're doing live. We gotta fix that. Because that's a crime if we're not talking about live. Alright, Never Shout Never. This was an artist that I've been waiting to listen to, and I've heard only bad things about them, and then actually listening to their music, I was inspired by their music. There is, some weird cheesy lyrics and weird choices with music that they chose to do in their later work, but there's one song in particular. But there was a weird segment, I think it was in the chorus specifically, where there's like a really loud abrasive guitar and weird, like, obviously sound programmed drums that just no other artist or band would even attempt to do, because it just doesn't sound good. But I applaud him for keeping it on the album. And for that, I didn't think I was going to enjoy his work as much as I did. I definitely wouldn't want to see him live, but he was something to listen to, that's for sure. Come on. There. Alexis on Fire. Now, this is a band that I really have nothing but good things to say. I heard one of their songs on Spotify, and then my dad actually was the one that got me into this band. One day he gave me an iPod, and he was letting me put songs on it, and then I saw that he had their stuff from the first album all the way to Young Cardinals, and I was like, oh, I love this band. This band is so good. This is exactly what I enjoy. And really, Alexis on Fire definitely is something that, when I think of high school, I definitely think of Alexis on Fire, because anytime that I was staying up late to finish a project, I'd have coffee and I'll have Alexis on Fire going. More than likely their first album, because I love their first album. I like pretty much all their work, and there's no songs that I dislike from them. But their first album, to me, is the one that I always go back to. Crisis is obviously second to that. And oh my god, their last album was so good. The fact that the way they managed to change their sound, but in a really a very healthy, not predictable, but it was kind of inevitable that they were going to eventually change, because post-hardcore can only be what it is. And the way they went for a more atmospheric alternative rock album, my word, they really, that album is so good. If you have not heard it yet, you don't have to be a fan of post-hardcore to get into it. If you're a fan of alternative rock, specifically maybe even 90s alternative rock, I would say, because there's definitely some Alice in Chains influence on there, you have to check it out. I forgot the name of the album, so I'm just going to, and there's also a song I want to highlight on that album, because it's probably it's a contender for my song of the year. It didn't come out last year, but I heard it for the first time this year, so I need to highlight it. Blue Spade. So yeah, the album's called Otherness, and Blue Spade is a fantastic song. There's two great songs on this album. I don't remember the other one specifically, but Blue Spade was absolutely outstanding on how good it was. It might have been Conditional Love, but yeah, this whole album in general is just, you need to listen to it. It's one of the best albums that I've ever heard. And that, like, I wasn't expecting to say that about Alexis on Fire. Like, I love Alexis on Fire, but I was not expecting them to pull off an amazing album as what they did with Otherness. 100% one of my top bands to see live. The Gaslight Anthem. Oh, and I'm so jealous because my sister's ex got to see them live. But yeah, anyways, the Gaslight Anthem. I love this band. Again, pretty much nothing but good things to say about this band. They remind me, they're definitely proto-Menzingers. Like, if you like Menzingers, you will probably like this band. And not in terms of, like, the punk Menzingers, but, like, the more, like, melodic, feel something, emotional songs, Menzingers. You will love this band. Their first album is so good, but my favorite song is the first song off of their second album, I believe. And really, like, I love this band. I kind of classify it as, like, divorce. It's kind of, it does have a little bit of a divorce dad rock vibe. It's like divorce emo or indie emo dad rock vibe. Yeah, the 59 Sound and Great Expectations is my favorite song by them. Solid band, solid albums. The lead singer alone is just one of the best singers that I've ever heard. 100% would love to see him live. Bad Religion is a band that it is a punk band that I actually always wanted to listen to. I'm not a huge fan of punk. The one punk band that I listened to their discography was like Pennywise, and Pennywise was good, but Bad Religion has so many great songs and so many songs that it was easier to, like, kind of just take Bad Religion over Pennywise. And they actually do tend to, like, add some a little bit more, like, experimentation with their music. Like Pennywise, like, pretty much just puts out the same thing over and over again. My favorite song from them is definitely not a popular pick, I would say. It's one of their, like, most, like, really well-made melodic songs, and it's Honest Goodbye. Honest Goodbye is a fantastic song. I like pretty much almost all their albums. There were some albums that I got a little bit tired of, but for the most part, I like a lot of their albums. And even that album with the Honest Goodbye, I'm not in, like, it wasn't my favorite album out of the bunch. I like more of their older stuff, specifically the one with the dogs on them. That one is probably my favorite Bad Religion album. But yeah, I would definitely put in We'll See If I Have Time. Ice Nine Kills, a band that I have a love-hate relationship with because I love their first two albums. Their first two albums are some of my favorite albums of all time, but then they just went into metalcore. And, like, the first two albums are very more, like, post-hardcore, but, like, with a really interesting edge, like, very similar and reminiscent of Let It Unfold You by Senses Fail. And Spencer has even said that he was inspired by that album to make their music. And it really sucks that, like, if you want to listen to their first album, you have to listen to it on YouTube. People are asking and begging for them to redo the songs off that album. And I'm a little bit on the fence because some people don't like that stuff, and it would have to be done, as long as it sounds like post-hardcore and you don't go in generic metalcore territory, I'm fine with that. But also, I wouldn't put these guys on, like, Want to See because they're not performing those songs specifically. I'm not a huge fan of metalcore, and with the theatrical stuff, they kind of, again, like Panic at the Disco, inspired a specific theme metalcore that I'm not a huge fan of. For that reason alone, they're going to go in third for Not Interested. And Motionless, some bands will just follow. Like, there's not really much to say. Like, Motionless in White will also go in that category as well. Blink-182 is a band that I used to like in high school, but I'm just not a fan of the immatureness from their albums. I used to like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. My favorite album by them right now is Dude Ranch. Their last album was terrible, and I'm not accepting any other opinions otherwise. I'm not a fan of their highly acclaimed untitled/self-titled album, but yeah, I don't want to see them. I'm going to put them here. Damn It, it's also my favorite song from them. And Enemy of the State's also a good album. I forgot to mention that. I always forget to mention that for some reason. And even Neighborhoods. I also like Neighborhoods. Yeah. So, I Prevail. Same thing with, instead of the theatric side of things, it just birthed specific, elements to a metalcore scene that I don't care for. However, the Blank Space cover is good. Put them here. Beartooth. When I listened to Beartooth, Beartooth was weird because they started off metalcore and then they started going into a more hard rock direction. I like their music. I like a lot of their songs. King of Anything is my favorite Beartooth song, but there's just not a lot, when it comes to hard rock specifically, it's one of those genres that it's like, you hear in a video game and you'll like one song, but like I'm not into it like that. I wouldn't want to like see it live. I wouldn't want to get an album unless like, all the hits are on that album. But yeah, King of Anything is an amazing song. I love like just watching a video of like the live performance of that song because it's definitely a song that brings people together, and I love seeing that, and I love experiencing that when it comes to rock music, alternative music, really in general. They're definitely going above I Prevail, and they're going above some. Oh wait, no, I keep forgetting that this is about live. So they're going here. Yeah. All right. Next is Kubla Khan. I'm not a huge fan of hardcore. I do have some exceptions. I liked a lot of their stuff. I wouldn't want to see hardcore live. Their music is solid. It's definitely going to be high up on the not interested list. There are other hardcore bands that I much prefer, like Guilt Trip or When We Get to Tsunami, as well as like if some people consider Stick to Your Guns. I guess Stick to Your Guns is like both kind of between hardcore and metalcore. But yeah, Kubla Khan is definitely going to be going above Beartooth. The Plot in You. I listened to this band a lot in high school. One of my most played songs was Forgive Me, and I was really going through it at that time. It's a weird band because they're definitely one of the best like modern metalcore bands. However, or even like with post-hardcore elements too. They kind of bridge between post-hardcore and metalcore. And they did some experimental stuff, which I was intrigued on how that I somehow accepted that, and it worked for me. But they have some solid albums. Once again, it's kind of music where I kind of group them with like Ghost Inside, where it's like, they have good music, but they're not like my favorite band. However, I would probably put into like We'll See If There's Time, because I feel like that's I'd be interested to hear them live, especially that one song that blew up on TikTok, because I love that song. Mayday Parade, a pop punk band that I really love. I don't listen to them as much as I used to. But I would have originally put them in must see almost every time I have to talk about this band. Like they're high up, but they're definitely in the want to see category now because I don't listen to their music as much as I used to. This is a band that I like almost their entire discography. Their last album was all right, and I'm not a fan of their EP, like the first EP before Lesson in Romantics, which is a controversial opinion. But everything after that, all those albums are fantastic. They make great songs. My favorite song by them is Oh Well, Oh Well. And it's pop punk music for the feels. It's weird because it's kind of like, it's definitely like one of those bands where it's like it's a band that means a lot to people, and it's one of those, it's between like a scene band where the neon pop punk scene, but then also going into the more serious pop punk scene. And some people might just say that, well, they just keep writing the same songs and whatever, but no, there's a lot of songs that they've made that I don't see other pop punk bands being able to make, like Ghost, for example, and even Oh Well, Oh Well. Bands like All Time Low would never. But yeah, definitely above Jack's Mannequin. Loathe, another band that I was putting off waiting to listen to, and my word, this band has a really interesting reputation because a lot of people tend to like send this to music critics because their music is really worth it. It's so good. It's so interesting because they have like a more metalcore straightforward album, and then they went more into like an atmospheric shoegaze stuff, and then they made a straight up drone album. Solid band, 100% would love to see them live. They're going next to Alexis on Fire. Asking Alexandria. I originally listened to this whole band's discography because I got a shirt from Hot Topic, and I didn't want to be a poser. But their music is just not worth it, in my opinion. Their earlier Myspace or their earlier metalcore stuff is all right. It's not my favorite. They have some all right songs, but I'm not a huge fan of metalcore. My favorite album of theirs is the one with the black creature on it. which I'm gonna find the name for because, oh, that's not it. Yeah, the Black album is really good. I'm not a fan of really any of their other work. However, I know that the lead singer wants to go in a more rock direction, but I'm not. I wasn't turned away from their last album. I do think if they're going to go in a more rock direction, like the lead singer is, like he has the voice to do it, and I do think that it could be something special. I look at bands like Alexis on Fire, who went from post-hardcore to straight up alternative rock. The problem is with Buddy's voice though is that he tends to lean more in towards like classic rock. Like he could be like Bon Jovi, like he could definitely do Bon Jovi covers, that's for sure. Which that's where there's like an issue, and I can see where people will stop listening to their stuff. But yeah, weird band. They have some alright albums. They have a straight up terrible album, and then they have a really good album. Definitely, I would put them in like We'll See If There's Time. Paris, alternative indie pop, sometimes being abrasive. I feel like they did kind of add some rock elements, but it's mostly like alternative indie pop with some abrasiveness. They're not very good live, but they have some good songs. Also, they're not very good people, so I'm gonna put them in We'll See If There's Time. All right, now if you ask me, like, if there was ever a band that I would have never expected to fall in love with first listen, I would have probably said it was We Came as Romans, because I really didn't like this band in high school. But I don't know what it was, because listening to their first album, I was like, oh my god, this is exactly what I love. It's kind of, their first album to me sounds like what I wish the, what is it, Plagues? I think it was Plagues by Devil's Wears Prada would sounded like. It's a perfect mix of like, with some weird synths and auto-tune that just works. And this band to me, I immediately fell in love with this band. It sucks that the original lead singer died, because he to me like reminds me a lot of like Chester Bennington, and this band to me is like, I have the same appreciation for this band as like people that have a deep connection with Linkin Park. That's exactly how I feel about this band. I love like pretty much all their songs. If the lead singer was still alive, I would 100% love to see this band live, because their music is just really special. My favorite song by them is Learning to I think it's learning to survive, or learning, yeah, and I believe it's called Learning to Survive. They have a lot of powerful songs about like mental health stuff, and it's a very interesting band when you look at it at first glance. But the more you listen to their music and the story, then it just becomes like sad at the end of the day. Every time I hear one of their songs, I just like immediately get goosebumps and I get choked up, because it's a music that just really like hits you. And I'm not a fan of metalcore, but they managed to win me over. You're gonna be the highest not interested. I don't think anything will be changed. Well, there'll be another contender, but we'll get there when we get there. Boys Like Girls, I'm not even gonna bother talking about these guys. I don't like them at all. Weezer. So I only heard two Weezer songs in full before listening to their discography, and that was Beverly Hills and it wasn't Saying So. It was it was oh my god. Yeah, it was okay, so it was Beverly Hills and it was We Are on Drugs. Weird combination. But listen to their whole discography. They have lots of music to listen to. They have lots of great music to listen to. And I have a lot of controversial Weezer opinions. First one is that Ratitude is not as bad as people say it is. It really isn't. The second one is like I'm a weird Weezer fan because I don't like Pinkerton, but I think the White Album is their best album. And most albums that people have issues with, like even like the Black Album with Beverly Hills, like it's fine. It's not like as bad as people are making them out to be. My favorite songs from Weezer are Take Control and Trampoline, as well as pretty much everything off the White Album and everything off the Blue Album. But yeah, those are my Weezer opinions. I would 100% love to see them live. They're going... Oh, hello? What happened here? They're going in front of Gaslight Anthem. Next is The Cab. Now, The Cab to me reminded me a lot of the band The Audition. And I did hear one of their songs before. I don't remember which one it was. It was the one off their first album, not it wasn't Angel with the Shotgun. That was the second song I heard because my friend recommended it to me. I was like, wait, this is The Cab. I know The Cab. But yeah, no, they make some solid pop rock. I really would like that for them to make another album. I think it would be really cool. They have a lot of catchy songs, and their music is just really great in general. I'm gonna put them in Want to See next to Jack's Mannequin, and then we have The Main. The Main is just solid pop music. Almost all their albums are fantastic. My favorite album from there is the Halloween album, and if you don't like pop music, you'll probably like The Main because it's so weird where they started off with like a, your typical Myspace pop rock stuff, and then they just lean more into like making like the best pop music imaginable. And for that reason, they'll be going above The Cab. Let Live. I would say that, I guess they're a post-hardcore band. One of the best post-hardcore bands that I've ever heard. I, again, held off on listening to them, and yeah, they have some really solid music, really solid songs. 100% would love to see this band live. There's not really a whole lot I can say. It's just, they're a very unique post-hardcore band that I wish, I could listen to other bands that sound like them. Because there's not a lot of bands that sound like them. There's a lot of energy that I just don't get from a lot of other post-hardcore bands that these guys bring to the table, and for that reason, they'll be going next to Alexis on Fire. Story of the Year. I'm not a huge fan of this band. Page Avenue is not a magnum opus that people make it out to be. There's far better albums in the scene that replace that album by far. However, this band, whenever they wear their influences on their sleeve, it's really good. And even their pop stuff is really good. I don't like every song by them, and I don't like every album by them, but they do make some feel-good alternative music, I guess you could say. 2005 is an amazing song. If you haven't heard it, it's, again, like more of a pop song, but it's a very good song. They're a band that I don't hate as much as I like, speaking negatively about them, but they're also not a band that I have a lot of positive things to say. And for that reason, we're going to go above Stories So Far. And then Sleeping with Sirens, I'm not going to bother with them. We need to fix this. We're going to put that in there. Starting Line. I like their EP and their first two albums. They make solid pop-punk music, but I've also listened to their music so much that I'm tired of listening to their music. They're great. It's a great band in general. There's really not a whole lot to say. Their music is just good pop punk, and for that reason, I feel like it's just, I'm going to put them probably above Beartooth. Breathe, Carolina. I really like I like all their albums. I like all their albums. I like obviously more of their indie experimental stuff with like the crunchcore elements. But if they were to put out another album, I'd be fine with no screaming because they're just excellent musicians. And then they turned into electronic DJs now. They had a lot of music that I had to sit through, and I have like 95 songs liked by them. And a lot of those are like remixes or featured tracks. And but yeah, no, they're definitely a guilty pleasure band / group or duo. However, they're like more electronic stuff. Like I forget which album it is. It's the one with the eye on it. That album to me is like, that's an album that I wouldn't consider a guilty pleasure. I genuinely like that album. That is Hell Is What You Make It, and even the Hell Is What You Make It Reloaded. Like both of those they're great albums. Savages was an album I wasn't originally sold on, but then I came to like it, and obviously, they have their iconic album, Hollow Fascination. It's classy, not classic, is fun, but not good. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel. And then you got the Dead, the album is also pretty good, just not as good as the rest. So, but, because they're electronic DJs now, I don't know how exactly they would perform live. I'd have to see a video of them performing live in order to where I would put them, but for now, I feel like their music wouldn't be interesting to me live, and for that reason, I'm going to put them. For that reason, I'm going to put them probably below. Here. Set your goals. When I think of easy core, there's I think they're a part of like maybe a big four. because there's like a day to remember, or maybe, yeah, I think, yeah, I feel like they're a part of the big four. So they got a day to remember, 4 Years Strong. However, that's not really accurate. And then New Flame of Glory, and then Set Your Goals Be after that. I'm pretty sure that's like the definitive four of easycore. And easycore is a genre that I'm not a huge fan of, because you listen to a lot of it, you eventually get tired of it. Their song Certain is my favorite song, and honestly, like, it was my second most played song last year. It's going to probably be my third, if not top most played song this year, because I love that song. That song is so good. And for that reason, I feel like they would maybe play that song live, and I'm going to put them in, but however, I don't want to be too optimistic, but I'm going to put them next to Asking Alexandria. We the Kings, not a good band at all, but they're above Motionless in White. Actually, no, they're above Sleeping with Sirens. There we go. And then we got Crown the Empire. So I'm not a huge fan of, not a huge fan, is putting it lightly. I don't like Bring Me the Horizon for many reasons, and I used to say that Crown the Empire was just better Bring Me the Horizon, which was this really stupid opinion, because when I actually listen to their music now, I was saying that back in high school, but now that I would actually listen to their music, it is very generic metalcore. However, I do have nostalgia for like the first 3 albums that they put out, and I believe Lead Me Out of the Dark is the song. That's like my favorite Crown the Empire song, which is a very good song, a very good acoustic song from the metalcore scene. I find it interesting that it's not, it's not on, no, it's off of their first, it's off of Limitless. Yeah, Lead Me Out of the Dark. I think my favorite album by them is honestly Limitless, if I'm being honest. But yeah, for nostalgia purposes, I would put them in, definitely We'll See If There's Time, and I'm going to put them above Set Your Goals. Avril Lavigne. I like her first album. You know, her songs are all right. There's not a lot of stuff to say about her. I don't like her as a person, because she did Maud's Done Dirty. But, you know, like, she's definitely going in the not interested, but she's going to be, like, high enough that I think we can agree on, which will probably be about the story so far. All right. Plain White T's. Probably the worst band on this list, if I'm being honest. Their music is just not for me. It's just straight up pop music. And whoever called these guys pop punk is just like, I mean, they originally tried to be pop punk, but then they just straight up went into a pop direction. My favorite song from them is Hate, and that's because of Saints Row 2. We're going to put them, actually, not the worst. They're above Boys Like Girls. I'll give them credit. Destroy Boys. I love this band. A band that I really love is Newgrounds Death Rugby, and they're like, that band is like more like a DIY, rough around the edges, more, I guess, like fuzzy version of Destroy Boys, while Destroy Boys is like more clean, but also kind of has the same elements as that band. And for sure, I would put them in Want to See Live, because they have some great catchy songs. There's really not a whole lot bad I can say about these guys. I'd probably put them, I'm gonna put them above the Cab. I can't tell you what my favorite song is, because I like most of their work. There's too many. There was never really one song that like stuck out. Everything is just stellar in my opinion. And then we got the Tsunami, probably my favorite hardcore band in this lineup, because they really they bring the heat. That's for sure. I like everything from these guys. With Kubla Khan, you know, their last album was but with Tsunami, like, stellar work, phenomenal. Like, just it's music that gets you going. It's 100% workout music. Definitely, like, again, I'm not a huge fan of hardcore. I wouldn't want to see it live, but like, this band would be like the second band I would listen to if I was in a hardcore mood. It'd be right next to Guilt Trip, and for that reason, it's going to be going above Kubla Khan. And then we get to one of my favorite bands that has an unfortunate situation this year, where their leads, their clean vocalist left. I love the Immediate Infliction, one of my favorite bands of all time. So many great albums. They're mental health advocates. It's literally metalcore for the mental health advocates. And just it's music that hits you in the feels. They have, even their songs I'm not a huge fan of, like, they don't mean anything. I love all their music. It's so good. But their clean vocalist left, so I don't want to see this band live because Aaron left. I think his name's Aaron. But yeah, there's so much, like, if you want like just a quick breakdown of what to listen to when you listen to this band, I'll tell you, like, my favorite album is one that's not as like the popular pick. I feel like the popular pick is Let the Ocean Take Me, as well as Youngbloods. Youngbloods is more of like a fan pick. For me, Glory Days is my favorite album from them, but then Let the Ocean Take Me is in the list. I think This Could Be Heartbreak would probably be my second favorite, but it's the one that the band hates the most. But that's an album that when you listen to it and you understand the subject matter of the album, and then you understand why the band hates it, and because when they made that, they were in the worst mindset imaginable. And then you hear the album and you're like, damn, that definitely, you can hear that on the album. Misery is a weird experimental album that I also would recommend. But then you get into the stuff like Not Without My Ghost, Everyone Loves You, Once You Leave Them. Those are good, but they're not my favorite, and they're not noteworthy in my opinion. Like, I like Youngbloods. Youngbloods is really good, and Chasing Ghosts are also really good. The one that I listened to the most in high school was Chasing Ghosts. However, what's funny enough though is that I remember this band not having as much melodic singing. So when I heard the melodic singing, I was like, holy shit, this might just be my favorite band. And again, like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of metalcore, but my word, like, this band really, never have I really been hit by a band, and like unlike I think the only exception would be like Movements, but this was like Movements for metalcore. And this band means a lot to me. My favorite song from them is probably Don't Lean on Me, which I believe is one of it's their third most played song. A lot of people, Pittsburgh is one of like is one that a lot of people will say, because you look at it and you're like 88 million plays, no wonder. But then you also listen to the chorus of that song, it makes a lot of sense. All Fucked Up is another song that I play a lot when I'm in a really bad mood. And oh my god, I also forgot to mention the music videos for these songs too. Like, they'll have you crying, especially All Fucked Up. All Fucked Up is one that I feel like that if you understand if you relate to it, it will hit you in the feels. Another one that I forget, but I'll find the music video and I'll post the thumbnail, is one about like a young relationship. And I also, there's two separate videos that I get confused. There's one about a domestic abuse situation, and then the other one is just like two teens like escaping to go do something else, which I also like. Those don't sound as bad, but then you listen to the lyrics, and especially Don't Lean on Me. Don't Lean on Me is like, I don't know if I think about that song more because of the lyrics, or if I think about the song because of the video, but both are equally like, they hit me in the feels. And for that reason, where this is going. It's going next to Weak Game is Romans. Straight Light Run. I love this band. I really wish more bands sounded like this. If I had to like describe their sound, they're an emo band, but they're not your typical emo band. Like, they're more indie, but the vocalist has like that emo whiny vocals, but not even really that kind of whiny. It's more like it's like Def Cab. The best way to put them is like, it's like Def Cab. Sometimes there's a female vocalist. I'll discuss my favorite work very soon. Their first album, and I like their first album. I have their first album on CD. But where it's really at with like their supreme work, I'll tell you that is it's their Prepare to Be Wrong. Prepare to Be Wrong. Prepare to Be Wrong is the single, but it's actually an EP. But yeah, it's an EP. Okay, sorry. So Prepare to Be Wrong. I'm gonna count. It's 6 songs, so you can call it an album, you can call it an EP. But for some reason, it's a single. Is some of the best music I've ever heard. Like, there's a lot of indie rock and indie stuff that I listen to, but I was floored by how good this EP or album it was. And something that really pisses me off is that I literally saw this one day at my record store, but when I listened to anything outside of the first album, when I heard the Needles, the Space, there was more of an experimental direction on that album, and I was not ready for that. I hated this album when I was in. I hated this album a lot when I was in high school. I couldn't get through any song. And then you look at it, it's like, yeah, then there's like Take It to Manhattan, not a favorite of mine. Track number 12, not a favorite of mine. But the rest of the album is solid. However, then we go back to Prepared to Be Wrong. I was like, okay, it's because I heard that. I was like, oh man, I hope none of the stuff after their first album sounds like this. And I didn't take the smart approach and, pick this up and be amazed. I left it there and I was not able to find it again. I'm probably going to look online for this because this is an amazing experience that I've ever witnessed when it comes to indie music. And there's just a lot of amazing stuff here that was never recreated or replicated by any other band that I've listened to. It's really good album or EP, whatever it is. Phenomenal. And with all that praise, where this is going. It's going right next to Alexis on Fire. And then we go to the Somerset. So the Somerset, I heard the Ready Set, and the Ready Set's garbage. But then I heard the Somerset, and the Somerset to me was like the bad of what I was expecting from Never Shout Never. And they have some good albums. Like their first 3 albums are good. I need to double check that because there's one album that I have beef with, and I'm gonna bring that up. But just Myspace, pop rock. Yeah, I don't want to get them. I don't want to get them mixed up with the Rocket Summer because the Rocket Summer is actually good. And we'll get to that. But yeah, so Love Like This, phenomenal. I also love their Taylor Swift covers. Everything's Fine, also really good. And Legendary, yeah, so I was right. The first 3. Legendary is also a great album. But then we get to Stories for Monday, and this is where I beef. For Monday, Figure Me Out is one of the, has a lyric on that song about being too punk rock for the scene when they're making fucking pop music. I couldn't take him seriously after that line because I listen to the rest of the music, it's like, it's fine. It's all right pop music, or I guess Blossom's like more alternative pop music, but my word, that took me out. It was they were doing all right beforehand, but then that just no, I'm not accepting that, and I don't think anybody should accept that. And for that reason, we are going probably. They're gonna go above. Yeah, I'll go above the Story So Far. And then we get the Rocket Summer. Rocket Summer is phenomenal. You need to listen to the Rocket Summer. The Rocket Summer, originally indie rock, and then they just went full on experimental with their last album. Originally, I guess it was a band, and it's more just one guy now, or maybe it was always just the one guy. But I have so many positive things to say about the Rocket Summer. Literally everything that I love about early indie, not early indie, but 2000s indie going into the 2010s, this guy did it. This guy did exactly what I love and what I expected from an artist or a band to do to amaze me. So let's start off with the early years. The early years is a good album. Calendar Days is superb. It's really, really good. A lot of great songs on there, a lot of catchy songs. Hello Good Friend is my favorite album from them. Kind of just does everything even better. Do You Feel is where we go a little bit back. And then Of Men and Angels, we go high again, but not as high as the rest. Life Will Write the Words, above Of Men and Angels. And then we get to Zoetic, which is 2 steps above the Life Will Write the Words. Then we get to Sweet Shivers, which is 3 steps above 3 steps above Life Will Write the Words. And then we get to Shadowcasters, where my mind is blown on how interesting, how catchy, how experimentally amazing these songs are. This album is so good, and it came out in 2023. I wasn't into that music then, but I wish I was, because I would have, this album would have been, one of my favorite albums of the year, 100%. Yeah, if you haven't heard The Rocket Summer, you need to listen to The Rocket Summer. Phenomenal band/artist. And we're going next to Straylight Run, for that matter. Don Bronco. For some reason, I get these guys mixed up with Brockhampton. I don't know why. Names, I guess. But solid alternative rock with some experimental elements that really shine on like the rest of their work. I love their first album. Their first album is one of my favorite rock albums now because how good it is. It's just solid, catchy, hard rock goodness. And for that reason alone, we're going to be putting them above Weezer. Actually, yeah, above Weezer. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, Christian post-hardcore band. Sometimes they and then they lean more a little bit more into the hard rock direction. Their first album is great. I have it on CD. But my favorite of theirs is actually, I believe, an EP, which is the Hell or High Water EP. Oh, that's ironic. The Hell or High Water EP is really good. For some reason, it's so interesting because, like, you know, I always like, you know, the post-hardcore, emo stuff that I listen to whenever, like, I heard Face Down in Saints Row 2, and then, you know, like, I would listen to their first album a lot because it would always get recommended to me on Spotify. But then I heard the Hell or High Water EP, and I was like, damn, where was I? Or, sorry, it's an EP, but this is an album, okay. Where was I? Like, why didn't I check this out? Because this is some solid hard rock at its finest. And you know me, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of hard rock, but this was some really good hard rock that I can't really say about any other hard rock album / EP that I've ever heard. Like, this was some really good hard rock. And it's interesting because, you know, like, the lead vocalist that you would hear on, like, the first album, and then you hear his vocal progression, it fits very well. They're definitely going next to the Gaslight Anthem. Taylor Acorn, one of my favorite artists that I've ever heard, honestly. They do, like, the solo pop-punk music stuff, like, you know, like, I guess, like, Demi Lovato tried, Avril Lavigne. My favorite artist that does, well, I'm not going to count Nothing Nowhere because he does various genres. But, yeah, like, just, like, the singular artist making their music, really good pop-punk music. I really like her first, I think it was her EP. I think it's called Put It in a Song. That one is definitely my favorite out of the bunch. And, you know, I don't like to compare, like, artists or anything like that, but, like, this is she's kind of basically how I would expect Taylor Swift to be if Taylor Swift went in a rock direction. Or, like, Taylor Swift tried to be like Demi Lovato. But, yeah, Put It in a Song, EP. This is definitely my favorite piece of her work. I like her pop-punk stuff and all that, but this was more, like, if I remember correctly, it's, like, more acoustic, country, like, trying to be Taylor Swift. Honestly, Taylor Swift, but better from what I remember hearing. And that's honestly, yeah, it shouldn't surprise you to say that I'm going to put her right next to the Rocket Summer. Offspring, love this band. You know, I listened to a lot of their, like, hits when I was younger. My favorite song from them is Self-Esteem. And honestly, my favorite album from theirs is one of their most controversial ones, which is Let the Bad Times Roll. Now, again, when I originally ranked this band on the 2023 When We Were Young, so I haven't heard their new album. I heard a lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. So I'm curious to see where I'll put that album in terms of my ranking. But, like, yeah, I really like the fact that their music is just fun. You know, it doesn't matter what genre they're making. They're making rock music at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if it started off as punk and then went pop punk. And if they have a catchy song, they have a catchy song. A band that's kind of similar to them that I really love is Stroke 9. If you haven't heard Stroke 9, Stroke 9 is kind of like if the Offspring continued to do what they did into, like, their 2000s career, that's what you would have gone with. That's what you get with Stroke 9. They literally have an album where they just wear their influences on their sleeve and try to sound like, you know, Sum 41 or even, like, I guess, like, more like more melodic stuff like Jimmy World. It's very interesting on how they it's a very interesting band. But yeah, the Offspring, 100% would love to see them live. I'm going to put them above Weezer because I do want to hear Self-Esteem live. If it wasn't for that song, they would go behind Weezer. Holding Absence. Now, when it comes to post-hardcore, you know, if it isn't clear, post-hardcore is one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite. It's tied between post-hardcore and post-rock. But modern post-hardcore is kind of hard to keep me interested if it sounds more like, you know, your clean metalcore stuff that's like got seeped into the genre. And I don't know who to blame for that. I guess maybe Silverstein, but even Silverstein did a good job at that stuff. But when it comes to Holding Absence, like, you know, I knew I was in for post-hardcore. I was like, all right, bring it to me. And their first album to me is my favorite album from theirs, and it left me like emotional in the same way that like the album Haven't Been Myself by Too Close to Touch. This band reminds me a lot of that band in all the good ways imaginable. And if you didn't know about the lead singer of that band, he died, I believe, last year, if not the year before. And I have a very deep connection to that album. So then listening to this band, and specifically the way they write music is beautiful. Their singing, the lead singer's voice is beautiful. The reason why I really like their first album is I specifically like their deluxe one, because when you hear them live, or their live version, or even their acoustic version, when those songs are like more intimate, there's not a lot of bands that I really connect with it the same way. Like whenever you can have one song and then you do the other version of that song, and it hits in a different way. It doesn't hit the same. It hits in a completely different way. It's more intimate. It's more, it's a deeper connection, because it just sounds like someone's, you know, playing a guitar in an open room. And even the live version, when you hear the crowd sing back, I believe the chorus to, I don't remember which one it is. I need to double check. But there's a beautiful live performance of one of their songs where whenever the crowd sings back the chorus, and I love that. I love hearing that stuff. I believe it was, so it might have been, I think it was Your Love Has Ruined My Life. I love that song. That's probably my favorite song from them. Is that even their like one of their most popular songs? Probably not. Yeah, it's not. In that song specifically, hearing the crowd sing back the chorus, I was like, that's a powerful song. It's so interesting the way, like, even that song in general, like, the way it's written, the vocalist delivers it in a way that doesn't sound like, you know, cheesy breakup stuff. It's like, no, like, you hear the pain, and it's a band that really delivers the emotion in the post-hardcore in a way that's like, you know, like Movements, for example. And for that reason, they're going to be going next to Straylight Run and the Rocket Summer. The Movie Life. A band that is like typical. They sound a bit of like between the 90s and the 2000s era of emo, punk rock. Their first album is very good. Or I need to double check. It's not their first album, but I think it's 40 Hours Straight Back to Pen. I listened to that album so many times in high school. 40-hour train back to Penn. This album, man, it's so good. The first half is amazing. Now the second half is like, it's good, but the first half is so good in terms of catchiness, in terms of just all in all presentation. This album is one of my favorite albums that I've ever heard, and I will fight anybody that discourages this band and says, oh, there's nothing special about this band. No, this album is pure emo goodness. And it's funny that their last album that was like more DIY rough production, I love that just as much as I love their cleaner production album. Oh, I also forgot to mention my favorite song. So my favorite song is tied between two. Kelly's song off of that album, and the This Time Next Year by off of the This Time Next Year, the self-titled or the album titled for that album. Solid. There's a guitar, I believe it's the guitar riff in that album that I always love, and I always go back to the reason for. And then just Kelly's song is a song that I always have stuck in my head. That's the one song that from that album that I'll always remember the beginning for, and then just want to listen to it again. For that reason, you know, I'm gonna put them in, like, we'll see if I have the time, but they're going right next to Bad Religion. Actually, no, they're going above Bad Religion. Her Leather Jacket. I didn't know what this was. You know, similar to like the singular pop punk acts, that's kind of what you get here. The dude has a twang voice, so if you like pop punk with a twang, go for it. Like, I highly recommend. It's not in like Bill Murray, like metalcore country meets country or anything like that, It's just like it's like if Morgan Wallen made a pop punk song, and their music is like mostly like pop punk bridges into like the more alternative rock stuff. But their first EP, they don't have any. They don't. I believe they don't have any albums. I think it's just EPs and singles. But yeah, no, their first EP, highly recommend it. I definitely would. Oh, whoops. I definitely. I definitely would want to see them, and I'm gonna probably put them. Yeah, I feel like Next to the Cab is appropriate. Arm's Length. I love this band. I know a lot of people love this band, because really nowadays when I think of the indie emo revival scene, this is one of the bands that first comes to mind because their music is so good. I drew them in like the Feel Something era of movements, or even I guess the EP as well is that era of movements. It's just really good, emotional, heartfelt music with a little bit of a nostalgia gaze. In 2019, a song that was like one of my most played songs in high school was Watercolor, and for good reason. There's not a lot of songs. I mean, there were bands that had songs that kind of sound like that, but I knew from that song that this band was not going to be a one-hit wonder, and that they were going to, well, not one-hit wonder, you know what I mean. One song that I would like, because they delivered with their future work. Pretty much I recommend everything from this band. A lot of people say to check out the album that came out in a couple of years ago, I think. The Never Before Seen, Never Again Found, that album. Oh, I didn't know that they have a new album coming out this year. I'm gonna listen to that, that's for sure. Where are they in concert? Probably nowhere. Yeah, typical. Anyways, for that reason, I'm going to put them in must see. And where? Probably above Taylor. Yeah, that seems like a good place. All Time Low, don't like. And then we get to The Used. So The Used, I listened to their first two albums a lot in high school, and I also like their album Heartwork. I'm not a fan of, I wouldn't want to hear Bert perform live, but those albums are really good. I love their second album, In Love and Death, more than their first album, which is one of the, it's always between those two albums to decide what's the best album. A lot of people say self-titled because, it's one of those unique albums that influence the scene, which it is, but the deep emotional connection with that album, and if you know the story of what influenced the real emotion on In Love and Death, you will understand why a lot of people like that album, and why I would say it's one of my favorite albums, because it's an album that was made through tragedy, and it's one of the best albums that has that behind it. In terms of I can't really think of another band that really influenced that. I mean, outside of the album, Haven't Been Myself by Too Close to Touch. That's one of those albums that, and that also has that nostalgia factor to it too. The first time I heard The Used was All That I've Got on Saints Row 2. And then listening to more of their songs off that album, I really, really love that album. But in terms of the band-wise, I love their first two albums. I love Heartwork. However, their last album was not it. Their deluxe version of that album with all the deluxe songs, those were good, but I wasn't a fan of the original album. And they're definitely gonna. So they're in Not Interested, but they're gonna be going. Probably put them above. Yeah, I feel like that's a good spot. Knocked Loose. Not a fan of Knocked Loose. I've made it clear about my not liking hardcore. However, the issue with Knocked Loose for me is that I originally did like Knocked Loose, but I think it's because they're really the first hardcore band that I got into because of, the first When We Were Young lineup. However, the main issue with, once they released Deep in the Willows, that had, I don't care what anybody says, terrible production or mixing. I think it was mixing, terrible mixing. And then their album came out, I didn't bother listening to it. Once I heard someone say it sounds like, I think it might have been Metal Trenches, but someone said that Isaac sounds like a 12-year-old yelling at his parents because they took away his Xbox. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's what it sounds like. I just couldn't unhear that. And a band that I do like with, an acquired taste vocalist like Kenoshi, there's something different there. It might just be because the music's better, but I don't know what it is. I'm gonna put them above Panic or Story Somewhere. Yellow Card. Yellow Card is one of my favorite pop punk bands. The first time I heard Yellow Card was Breathing and Rough Landing Holly in Flat Out 2. And ever since then, I love listening to their music. Ocean Avenue is not as great as people make it out to be. My favorite albums are Lights and Sound as well as Paper Walls, and they're self-titled. I don't really have any issues with any other albums from theirs. I also really like their album with the dragon on it. I think it was their second album, which is just more like, it's more just punk rock than anything. And it's one of the best punk rock albums that I've ever heard, really, if I'm being honest. Where We Stand. This album to me is a really solid punk rock album it's catchy, it's fun, and I can't really think of any other punk rock album that comes close to this album. It's a really solid album. I highly recommend it if you haven't heard it. And with that being said, obviously must see. I'm gonna put them. It's tough, but yeah, probably there. That is my overall ranking. I know it's probably gonna be controversial, but it's like nowadays it's like you can't really post any of your opinions without having criticism. And considering that I actually decided to think before I would say things this time around, and like finalize my thoughts as well as be honest, but not in like the explicitly cynical honest way, but just be honest, be like, I don't like this band. There's not much I can say about Boys Like Girls, All Time Low, or Sleeping with Sirens, because they have reasons why I just won't listen to their music. Same thing goes with Motionless in White. But I also know that other people will like those bands, and I put in I like this specific layout because it's must see, want to see, we'll see if there's time, and then not interested. There's no F tier, this thing sucks. It's more just straightforward, straight to the point, being honest, explaining why I picked these, why I put one in which spot, as well as telling you which album I recommend or telling you which song is my favorite, and encouraging you to also listen to this yourself. So yeah, this concludes my first ever real well put together version of a tier list video that I had yet to ever make. A lot of my stuff was lazy or just kind of ranting. But yeah, this time I decided to put the thought and effort in. Again, this is recorded on my iPad, but I'm using the same microphone. For the future, I will probably continue to do this when it comes to the tier list. I do want to take a break from doing the specific festival lineup tier list stuff because I want to work on some actual content. However, my favorite thing that I have planned to do for a tier list will be it'll be done through doing a live stream and then breaking that up into a whole tier list video. That will be really fun. I just need to figure out when I'm going to do that. Got a lot of things planned for the rest of the day, or specifically tonight, this evening, as well as maybe even now. I'm going to finish this video and going to start working on it and see what I can get out. That's all. Thank you for watching. Peace.